My name is Alyce Menton. I am the Senior Director of Marketing here at Kahua. And today I am joined with my friends and colleagues, Nicholas Johnson and AJ Waters, Kahua's Chief Evangelist. How are y'all doing today?
Doing great. Thank you for asking, Alice.
Of
That's
course.
fantastic.
Yeah, it's funny. As we were getting ready for this recap podcast, it just brought me back to 12 months ago when the three of us were sitting in Atlanta talking about what we wanted this podcast to be, what we topics we wanted to cover, the engagement we wanted to get, and here we are. And I know we've had a lot of fun over the past 12 months, but I also want to acknowledge and thank the community, our guests, listeners, partners, our speakers, and the amazing Kahua marketing team that really helped to put this together. Because I think what we did this year, the content we delivered, the conversations we had far exceeded our expectations when we first kicked this off last, March, I believe.
It does seem like it was just like a couple of weeks ago when we started doing this, and the year just flew by. And as I look back at it, AJ, you might feel the same way. As I look back at trying to recap this, so many great stories, so many great episodes that I just kind of, they've gone by so fast. I guess I just forgot how many there were, and hopefully how impactful this was for our community.
Yeah, it's funny because you plan and you plan and you prep and you talk about it and you talk about it, and then you just go do, right? And you pray or you hope or you wish or whatever your style is that it goes right or that something good happens. And we have had, I don't know if I want to call it the best of luck or if I need to knock on wood or what, but we have had some phenomenal conversations and it's been a great first season. It's not that like we haven't had people tell us no, but like the right people are showing up to talk about the right things, or at least it feels that way.
No, you're right. And you know what? So when we look back at season one, I mean, we covered a lot of topics, everything from managing the digital shift to asset centric, women in construction, AI, compliance. I mean, we ran the gamut of it. Tell me, like, what were some of your favorite episodes and things that stuck with you the most, or that moment you keep thinking about in the past 12 months?
Well, I'll
Go.
start, and I'll tell you that as I looked back at this, methodically, um, one of the favorite moments of mine in our very first conversation, really the first question that you asked of us, I got to tell the story of Kahua's history
Hmm.
and how we were born out of another company that I was also, proud to be part of, Constructware. And as I kind of went back and watched that and listened to that and just hear the story that I've told so many times, that's my job, is to help relay our story. It helps me remember how different it is, the software company that we've built. We're not a company of technologists that are looking for a problem to solve. We're construction and design people that had problems that we needed to solve, and we brought technology to those. And this is the birth of that. It's now birthed twice out of it. The beauty of having done this once before, and then the freedom to start over, not knowing the second time what you didn't know the first time. And it's just an incredible story. I hope I get to tell it to more people. I wish more people knew it because it's part of what makes us different. Truly, it means that our DNA, our origin, our genesis is different from other software companies. And that has carried us through incredible success for the last 16 years, especially as we've kind of hit that tipping point in the last few years. It was, for me, it's one of the most impactful stories in our Contech industry. And I'm really glad I got to tell it in our first episode. And it was one of my favorite moments for the whole year.
AJ, what about you?
Yeah, it was really hard going back through them to try to like pick a favorite, right? It's like asking me to pick my favorite child because all of them were great and they were all great for their own reasons, right? But if I had to pick one, it's just like if I had to pick one of my own kids, right? I would go back to the one where I didn't have to do anything. I handed it over to you, and that was the women in construction episode.
That was a fun
Where,
one.
yeah, I got to introduce it, but I just got to sit back and listen to you all roll. And because we talk about like some of the one-liners that people can get out of these and the short clips that you can reuse and things like that. And the practical takeaways, right? The tips that people can execute on tomorrow at work. And that was almost every sentence in that episode was something that an individual could take back and execute on the next day. And the empathy that was there, like just the heart, the passion, it was such a powerful episode. And so if I had to pick one, I would pick that one. But again, they're like all the ones that we've done this year have had their own little unique flair and their own special moment.
About that episode, what I recall, and it's the thing that I like to repeat a lot. And Alyce, you presented the numbers, and I think we are now up to 14% female participation in the AEC industry. But I think you also presented that the number is 3.4. I'm not sure if I got this right. It's between 2 and 4% of women on the job site. And that's where we're still hurting. That's where the industry needs people. You know, we don't have a shortage of engineers. We have a shortage of skilled labor. We have a shortage of job site professionals. So that's the one I want to pull from that, and I want to echo throughout the industry. You know, the answer to our labor shortage is in 51% of our population that we are ignoring. Not ignoring, but certainly underserving.
Yeah. No, agreed. And I think that was one of my favorite one twos. I mean, but there was just so many. I mean, we've had, thought leaders, we've had partners, we've had customers, we've had people that weren't even involved in construction and came in and talked to us about topics that were important just related to people. Right. So I think we really did run the gamut of it. And I think to AJ's point, there was pieces of little pieces of all of them that stuck out differently. And I think they resonated with the audience.
I'll take AJ's point and, which one is my favorite kid? I do have an answer. Certainly one of my favorite episodes this year was the last one we recorded. I got to sit down with the executive directors of both COA, the Construction Owners Association of America, Howie Ferguson, and CURT, the Construction Users Roundtable. That's Greg Sizemore. And those guys have led those organizations that serve the owner community and their constituents. They've led them for years. Howie's got a cool story because he was the owner for most of his career and then left the University of Florida as a project manager and project executive. He left there to take over the leadership role at COA. So now he serves those owners that he used to be. Those two guys have so much experience, and their life is to serve the same owners that Kahua serves. So having those guys come on and just kind of share some of their wisdom was, I hope, incredible for our audience. I know it was a joy for me to work with them and hear from them. A few things that really resonated out of that. Greg was talking about they were both talking about what's a good owner. And I remember Greg saying that good owners recognize that there's a lot of skilled builders out there and designers, and they can choose to work with somebody else. If you're a good owner, do you want the best designer? Do you want the best builder? Or do you want to settle for the guys that are willing to work for you because you're not a good owner? He said good owners ensure that it's a win-win-win for all those legs of the tripod, all the people involved. And if anybody loses on a project, then you don't have a good project. Howie said this was something that stuck out. I'd heard it before. I think we need to hear it more often. And now this is me as an engineer speaking, so maybe this doesn't resonate to everybody, but he said commissioning starts at the planning table, not at the conclusion. Get the right people in the room early was his message. And wow, I wish we could somehow wave our magic wand and get owners to buy into that idea that their operations and their contractors and subcontractors need to be involved early in design and planning. Even if you don't know if that contractor is going to be your contractor, bring in somebody with that kind of experience to influence the design decision. So that was certainly, again, that's my most recent child. So maybe that's one of my favorites, certainly for the last year.
I love that. What about anything that surprised you or something that you learned that you didn't expect over the past 12 months?
I would say the thing that I learned that surprised me the most, or maybe that I just had never considered myself, we were having the conversation around mental health and how just the confusion that gets in the way of having the right conversations, the difference between a mental illness and what is now being called mental wellness, right? Like we exercise our body for wellness? Why don't we exercise our mind for wellness? We put certain things into our body, right? We kind of filter out bad and put in good for our body. Why are we not doing that for our mind, right? And so that whole concept of mental wellness in the same vein as exercise and wellness was something that I had never really considered before, because you just hear mental health and it kind of all gets lumped together. And I think that's a conversation that, quite frankly, the industry needed. And they're starting to have, like, we're starting to see it happen. There was an article kind of mid-year where some of the CEOs of the top contractors across the country got together and formed a group to focus in on this specifically. And so it seems like everybody's starting to get there too. But that was one of the eye openers for me, where I was like, oh, like, why didn't I think of this before?
Well, and I think with that, you're changing the narrative, right? From a mental illness to mental health. And I think that's why it's easier for people to talk about. I mean, I don't want to put aside mental illness because that's still a serious topic. But to your point, if you shift the mindset and the way you talk about it, then you take better care of not only your mind and your body.
I
Right.
love the idea of, and the new practice of using the term mental wellness.
Yeah.
I heard that at a construction owners meeting. I heard it from a construction owner. I like it because the truth is, tell me if I'm wrong, when we hear mental health, what we think is mental illness.
Mm-hmm.
When we hear mental health, we think about mental disability. So I like that we're just, as you said, Alyce, change the narrative, change the language. Mental wellness is what we want to focus on, because we want to keep you well instead of waiting till there's a problem and addressing your illness. So,
Mm-hmm.
I just like that. I like that term. I hope it proliferates. It becomes what we use commonly. The other thing that surprised me was an AJ episode where he talked to everybody's favorite podcaster, Eddie Campbell, the Construction Brothers. And I'm not sure why this surprised me. It was just Eddie's candor. And, he's such a real guy, and he's got a real job, and he's doing the real work out there in this very real industry. But what he talked about was kind of rah-rah versus reality when it comes to team building and making a good project team. And he said, I've been in 10 trailers, and in the first 9, everybody's rah-rah. We're going to have a great team. We're all going to work together. We're going to love one another, and kumbaya. He even used that word, kumbaya. He said the special projects are the ones that are completed and comprised of people that want to come back and work with each other again and again. He said that's the earmark. He says it's one thing to have your kumbaya meeting, and then you go out and you do your job, and you're not looking out for the other guy. The contractor's not looking out for the subs and vice versa, and the owner's not looking out for the contractor and vice versa. And, we can talk about having a great team, but if you're not truly got each other's backs, that doesn't happen, and that's not going to be a good project. So I guess I just really appreciated the candor. We're probably always surprised these days when people are publicly very candid. So I really enjoyed that. Well done, AJ.
Thank you.
Yeah. AJ, what about you? Any big takeaways you'll carry into next year? Or, what is something you learned, that you didn't expect?
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest takeaway that I'll carry into next year is to not make assumptions, or to maybe broaden my mind a little bit, in the fact that, like Nicholas said, the candor that Eddie came with, or just the incredible insights that we got from someone like Molly when she came on the podcast, right? And to not make assumptions that I think I know how the conversation's going to go because I think I know the individual, but let it flow and let them open up and really share what's going on, and don't feel like you have to direct it a certain way or do any, like, I think that's the biggest takeaway for me is when people say yes to come on the show, genuinely, that's because they have something to say, right? Like, there's something that they want to say and they're excited about the opportunity to say it. So let's do that. Let's open it up. And And even if we have like kind of a flow that we expect to go down or a concept that we're hoping to touch on, that could totally go out the window if we get into something. When people are passionate, you can feel it, you can feed off of it, and you can really go deep on topics that are, again, relatable in the industry. And there's emotion behind the conversation, right? Like the listener can even feel that emotion. And that's kind of what we want to get to. And so for me, I think one of the biggest takeaways is not to go into, because I'm a very, like, I pre-plan a lot. Like I'm very regimented in how I put things together, because I want people to feel comfortable. I want it to not be scary, right? All those different things. The biggest thing I want to avoid is the deer in the headlights, right? So there's a lot of prep work that goes into that, and to just be okay with totally going off script. That's one of the things that I think I'll take into this year, especially as we continue to get more guests and we're less familiar with them, if you will, because they're not, some of the early guests, they're like, you're calling your buddies up and saying, hey, we're trying something crazy. Will you come ride along? And now we're starting to get, a little bit of traction. And these guests aren't people that we're quite as familiar with, but that's okay, because there's a bigger opportunity to learn. Right. And so that's my big takeaway.
Now, and I agree. I think one thing about this industry, which is different from other industries, is people are just real and genuine. Do you know what I mean? And I think to your point, you do need to plan and prep, but then sometimes you just let it go and it turns out better than you ever expected.
And if you're not real and genuine, man, if there's an industry that has a high BS meter, it's construction. Like they can see right through it, right? And so you have to be real, because everyone around you is going to see right through that BS if you're just throwing it out.
100%. Well, and we just talked. I mean, we covered a lot of topics. We had a lot of different people on. What next year? Well, we are in next year. Oh my God, 2026, right? Where do you want to go with this? Like, what are some topics or things that you want to go deeper in, or things that maybe we didn't touch on in 2025 that you want to talk about this year?
Well, I think one of the things we have to talk about, that we have to continue to talk about because it is evolving so fast, is an episode that we did have. Episode 10, we had Brian Moore, our own founder and president, on with our favorite industry expert, Hugh Seaton. Hugh runs several AI organizations. He's probably the most trusted voice for AI in construction, and we've taken great advantage of his knowledge. It was great to be with him on, and we talked about delivering something that's meaningful today versus just buzzword territory. I think that was actually the term that he used. I think we're going to have to talk about that once a quarter, because it is so rapidly changing what we're doing. It's changing what we do at Kahua, how we do things at Kahua, but it's also changing the way people work out there. So I think as a service to our industry, we ought to kind of do some sort of best practices. Here's what you need to know this week about AI, because it'll be different than it was last week.
Yeah. And one of the conversations that I really would like to have, and I kind of threw this out there on social recently, and it's been fun to hear from other people, is when does a best practice just become, we've always done it that way, right? Like, when are we going to start actually challenging some of the standards that are out there in the way that we do business? And this is something Eddie and I touched on this too. Some of the broken processes in the industry, because that's how you move the needle. Like, it's one of the things that I think we've done wrong as technology companies, and I'm not saying, Kahua in general, just all software across construction, is we took the best practice and we digitized it. We didn't question it first, right? We didn't say, is this truly the way that we need it? So in some cases, all we did was digitize chaos, right? And so that's one of the things that I love about Kahua's, platform and its flexibility, and the low code, no code is, you can fix that if the standard that we put into the system isn't your way of doing it, and you've got a better way, then extend our app and solve that problem so that you're not just working the way everybody else is being forced to work, right?
And you can do it
But
rapidly.
yeah, and you can do it fast. And so because of AI, Nicholas. So, I think we need to do a little bit more, or at least I'd love to do a little bit more of challenging some of the processes that are out there, or some of the things that we do just because they've always been done that way.
I love that. Yeah. And, in that first company, Constructware, that's what we did. We took paper processes and brought them online, and a lot of times without rethinking those. Now we had a good team of consultants, and they tried to encourage our clients. But one of my very first customers as a salesperson at Constructware was a university. I'll leave them unnamed. This was in the year 2002. And I was replacing a triplicate form. If anybody listening to this can remember that, 3 carbon copies
Mm-hmm.
that you copied on a drum. You spun a wheel and it made copies of these triplicate carbon forms. That's what I was replacing with Constructware, this cool online web thing. So I'm not sure that in that case we always replaced, that we did a good job of changing the business process. Sometimes that wasn't politically, acceptable. Keep doing it the same way. Just digitize it for me, digitalize it for me. But when we can, AJ, you make a great point. We're still doing some things. Think about how we pay subcontractors who fund our industry. This
100%.
is a $100 trillion industry, and subcontractors are the bankers for all of it. They buy everything up front and get paid later. So, and how do we pay them? 30, 60, 90 days, hopefully. How do you guys get paid when you go do something as a contractor for somebody? Well, here's my Venmo. You can pay me now. So I do think that will change. I wrote a little bit about some predictions this year. I think that photogrammetry and tools that reality capture is going to be more important in the coming year than even digital twin. I think, reality twin is going to be, reality capture is the most important thing, because it will show me how much has been done. And if I can prove very easily and use AI to make it all fast and almost instant, why do I have to wait 30 or 60, 90 days to pay the guy who's funding my project? So that's a process improvement that we could do, and we should at least be striving for that.
Oh, I love that. I'm going to jump a little around here. Can we do some quick fire rounds and just have some fun?
Yes, ma'am.
Let's do it.
I do want to go back and say one more thing we're going to keep talking about. I don't know if you asked if it was a new thing we'll do next year or just something we'll do, but we're going to keep talking about data security as well, Alyce, because it's the problem of the world, whether you're in construction or any other industry, or whether it's just how you do your banking at home. Everybody's concerned about the use of data. I think more than just that, though, this is the year that CMMC requirements go into full effect for the construction industry, for all the contractors working in the Department of Defense or Department of War. So if you don't have this certification, you can't bid on projects going forward. So contractors, subcontractors, and people in the supply chain are working diligently right now to get their CMMC certifications in place so they can meet this need. But I think it maintains its place very high up the ladder of conversations because it's this new requirement. It's not going away. It will probably get extended to other federal agencies in 2026. Now, what that means is it'll be announced it's going to be extended, and then they'll set a time where from this day forward, whether it's DOW or whether it's any federal department, you're going to have this same certification. Because the thought is, if I work for the GSA or the National Institute of Health, is my data any less important to my constituents than the Navy's is to their constituents? And they're going to say, well, no, it's not less important. I want that same standard. And all federal agencies are going to do it. And then pretty soon, probably the industry is going to adopt CMMC. It's coming, so I think we'll keep talking about it. Actually, it's
There's definitely a lot of topics to go deeper into, 100%. All right. Quick fire. I'm going to keep you guys on your toes. So can I just choose one of you and just give you one?
Sure.
All right, let's do, all right, Nicholas, best one-liner in 2025. I love it when I can stump you.
You stumped me.
Okay. AJ, you got a best one
No,
liner?
here
I
Okay.
it
do.
is. Pay me now or pay me later. This was a line from my conversation with Damon Hacker of Archer Hall and Roderick Peace of K2 Consulting. And actually, it was related to a CMMC conversation. And what they were saying about cyber hygiene in a company said, you better get your stuff in order now. Effectively, they were saying, spend the money to get CMMC credentialed.
Mm.
Spend the money to get your cybersecurity in order. Do it now, because if you don't spend the $100,000 now, it's going to cost you $1 million when you get breached, hacked, whether that's in ransom money or in reputation. Pay me now, pay me later.
So I do remember that one. Nicholas or AJ, you got one?
I do. So on that Women in Construction episode, Christine Mulholland had a great one-liner in there that said, "Do what you love, and it'll all work out."
Mm-hmm.
And I just thought that was a great little piece of advice. That, and when you think about it, like the more you enjoy something, the more you just go do it. And the things that you don't like to do are the things that you put off, right? Like, and when you really fall in love with what you're doing, it doesn't take a lot of effort for you to just go do that thing. Yep.
All right. And I know both of you really well. I've worked with you both for a few years now. So I know who is the one who prepares and overthinks and the one who isn't. So AJ, this question is for you only because I don't think Nicholas can answer this one. Uh, Hardest topic to prepare for, AJ?
Well, that yeah, that's pretty easy. That was the episode with Eddie where we were just gonna essentially, it was a live conversation recording where we were just going to start with one question and see where it went. And so, that for the guy who prepares, you're like, oh shoot, where are we going to go?
So the hard part
Yeah,
was that you weren't allowed to prepare.
yeah, it really was. But I mean, when you think about it, right? Like when you have somebody who's had as many conversations with the industry as Eddie has had, right? It's really difficult to come up with something that he's never seen or something that's new or exciting. And so instead of trying to do that, why don't we just go have a conversation and see what happens? And it ended up turning out great.
Yeah, well, there you go. Perfect. All right, just two more. Funniest moments that didn't make it to air.
I know this one.
Go ahead.
Alice's dogs. You remember that, Nicholas? Can you hear
Alice's
that?
dog is in my screen, 4 times a day. Why? No, I don't remember that.
We were
Ridiculous.
recording the episode and the dog's going nuts in the background and it is like loud. Like I almost have to take my headphones off loud. And Alice goes, "Can you hear that?" We're just all like, "Yes."
I think I might have said a few other choice words too. Yeah, I know. Always, when you need them to be quiet is when they're not, right?
Yeah. Yeah. That was probably the best one that didn't make camera.
Yeah. All right. And then what are for each of you, what if you could pick, and there were so many good ones, one episode that you would recommend to a friend, what would it be?
Well, if my friend was an owner, it would be episode 11, the one where we interviewed Greg Sizemore and Howie Ferguson from COA and from Kerr, the owner groups. If my friend was a generalist, maybe episode 5, which was a 2-parter where we had both Manny Innamorato from New York City School Construction Authority and Rob McKinney, who's an industry all-star currently with Salis. Those guys just had a great insight on kind of the digital shift that we're going through now and how you should strategize so that you're always prepared for the next thing that's going to come, because you don't know what it's going to be. So how can you be prepared? And they just gave some really practical insight on what you should be doing today with your own organization and your own data. They had a lot of good insight on how to use data better and also how to be prepared for what's coming next. So that was episode 5.
Yeah. I mean, Nicholas and I are kind of cut from the same cloth, right? We're those people that we don't just make blanket recommendations. Like we get to know you first. And so this is one of those, it depends answers, because it depends on who I'm talking to It could be the mental wellness. It could be the AI. Like that's a hot topic right now. You should definitely listen to that episode if you want to kind of start breaching or broaching that topic. It could be the episode with Eddie because it's just a fun one, and there's a lot of relational things. Or it could be, you might be young in the industry or further along in your career in the Bridging the Gap episode where we talked about the generational differences. So it's really difficult for me to say, if there were one, I'd go listen to this one. But based on where just the world is currently, right? Like, I think people can get value out of the AI episode, construction or not, just because of where the world is right now. And so that if I had to pick one that was a broad swath, I would say go listen to the AI one because it's valuable regardless of what industry you're in.
Any final thoughts from you before we talk about wrapping up and what's next and what we want from our audience?
I would say if you're listening to this and you have something to say, like, let us know. And I know we're going to touch on this at the end, but look us up. Like Nicholas and I are out there. We're on social. We're at conferences. Come find us because even if you're coming to challenge us, right? Even if something we said you don't agree with, like we'd love to hear it because there's no greater way to learn than to have a conversation. And so if you're listening to this and you're saying, I've got something valuable to add to the industry, and you want to reach out, hit us up because we're always looking to have good conversations with people who have valuable insights.
I'll say, Alyce, that I'm more excited about this than I imagined I could be. I was happy to participate when this idea came about. Yeah, sure, happy to help. I guess I thought, man, there's so many podcasts out there now. Who wants to listen to us? What I wasn't thinking about was they're not listening to AJ and I. We're bringing in people that have good things to say and good things to share. And I am more excited than I imagined I could be. I'm more proud of what we accomplished last year because I really think we brought great ideas and content to our audience. And I think next year we're going to do the same and do more and do better. While I was pleased to be a part of it last year, I'm fired up about what we're going to do in the coming year.
No, I love that. I mean, topic, guests, stories, challenges. I mean, definitely let us know. AJ and Nicholas are open to it, and we want to make this, for the audience. This isn't for Kahua. Well, look, it's been a great season one. I want to thank the guests, the audience, and again, AJ and Nicholas for your time. I think next year we need to track how many different locations you do this podcast from because you guys are all over the place. So I think that would be a fun stat to keep track of. But season 2 kicks off in February, and we're going to go deeper into the people, processes, and technology. And we hope you'll join us. So please make sure to subscribe and let us know what you think. And like AJ and Nicholas just said, they are very active on social media. Go find them, follow them, engage with them, and give us your ideas.
Please.
Yes.
And Happy New Year to everyone. And we'll see you soon.
Thanks
you,
Alyce.
Thank you.